And the Honorable Andrew M. Cuomo.
Thank you. What a great evening. And let's start by thanking Reverend Daniel for opening up this beautiful facility. Isn't this beautiful, St. John the Divine? Thank you, Reverend Daniel. To Neil Patrick Harris, who was a great actor, a funny man, and a great activist. Whenever we have a cause that needs a champion, Neil Patrick Harris is always there. Let's give him a round of applause. David Furnish, thank you for everything you've done, David. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your effort. Scott Campbell, the whole team at the foundation. We're honored to have tonight President William Jefferson Clinton. It was my honor. It was my honor to serve in the Clinton administration. I was the HUD Secretary, Housing, Urban, and Development Secretary. I was there from day one of the Clinton administration to the last day, 8 years. And it was a pleasure and an honor to be part of a federal government that brought people together, didn't divide people, that brought this country forward, not backwards, that was a beacon of freedom and liberty all across this planet that you can be proud of. That's William Jefferson Clinton, my friend, my mentor, my president. God bless you, Mr. President. And to Sir Elton John, I say, and Sandy says, what every person in this room says, which is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for 25 years of dedication and service, and all you have done on the issue of AIDS. 25 years for me is like yesterday. New York was ground zero, the first place the AIDS epidemic exploded. But a few weeks ago, I was speaking to college kids about HIV and AIDS and the New York experience, and I was getting back blank stares. Now, I'm accustomed to getting back blank stares, but there were more for a longer duration in this particular speech. And then it dawned on me, 25 years ago, they weren't even born, let alone be in a position to understand what was happening. And the truth is, it is important that they understand. And it's important that we remember what happened and how it happened. 675,000 Americans lost their lives to AIDS. 675,000, more lives lost than deaths in all the wars this country fought since the American Revolution. That's what we lost to AIDS. And it's not just the tremendous loss of life. It's how society first treated the victim of AIDS. Early on, an AIDS diagnosis meant not just the loss of life, but maybe even worse, a loss of dignity. People were ignorant, they didn't understand the facts, they were afraid of the consequences, and that fear brought out an ugliness and the meanness in society. The societal stigma was really at the heart of the AIDS epidemic. It was why the epidemic became more than a medical crisis, it became a social crisis, fanning flames of hate and bigotry. The gay community in particular faced terrible discrimination and hardship, loss of work, loss of friends, and even loss of family. Many early victims of AIDS were abandoned and isolated, left to the shadows. That's the true story of what happened with AIDS. Not just the loss of life, but the reaction of society and the fear that can happen around such a situation. But there was another chapter and the other chapter was the heroism, the courage, the leadership of those who stepped forward to shine a light into those shadows. Sir Elton John came forward to speak with honesty and facts and comfort. Elton was moved to action in 1985 by Ryan White, who had contracted HIV through a blood transfusion and had been ostracized by his community. Elton stood by the side of the brave young man, and together they showed the world that no matter your age, no matter your race, no matter your gender identity or sexual orientation, all people living with HIV/AIDS deserve dignity, support, and compassion. That was Elton John. Elizabeth Taylor stepped forward, as we just saw, using her talent and her celebrity to ease the fear and facts. In 1983, New York State was the first government to actually acknowledge the epidemic, to set up the first AIDS program, AIDS Institute, and AIDS Commission, and I'm proud to say that was done by Governor Mario Cuomo. And President Clinton forged a national program for housing services and medical research. President Clinton unified the country against this common enemy and provided real federal funding to make a difference. And now with the Clinton Foundation, he's bringing help to victims worldwide. So much has been done. The Elton John Foundation has raised more funds for this effort than any other group, over $385 million, as David said. Give that a round of applause. And importantly, it has directed that money to where the money is needed most, serving marginalized and underserved populations. It is the largest private funder of syringe access programs in the nation. It helps youngsters orphaned by AIDS. It's leading the way in Africa. It offers palliative care. The foundation does it all. Today, the Elton John AIDS Foundation stands as the largest funder of LGBTQ health programs. It has been named one of the top 10 funders of human rights-related HIV philanthropy. You should applaud. It has given people living with HIV the greatest gift of all, dignity, acceptance, and hope. One of my favorite Elton songs is "Someone Saved My Life Tonight." Well, thanks to the work of the foundation, it has saved literally thousands and thousands of lives. And that, my friend, is the most beautiful song. As David said, the battle is not over. We have more to do. And as long as I am governor of the state of New York, this state will lead the fight until it is over. And it is not over until we conquer this dreaded disease. New York State's goal is to end AIDS as an epidemic by 2020. Ending it as an epidemic means fewer than 750 new infections per year. The high point for AIDS was over 10,000 per year. And we believe we'll get it under 750 per year by year 2020. And we don't do it just with thoughts and prayers and hope. I will propose a New York State budget that has the largest commitment to AIDS ever, $2.5 billion to fight this scourge. That, my friends, $2.5 billion is more than any other state spends. It's more than the entire federal government spends for the country. But it's an investment because we know it works. We know syringe exchange programs work, testing works. We know prophylactic medication works. We've seen for the first time in the state's history, over the past 18 months, 0 transmissions mother to child. We've seen in transmission by injection drug use, at one time 54% of all new infections, down to now 3%. And every year the number of new cases has dropped. We're going to reach our 2020 goal. Together, I know we will. And one last point I can leave you with. There is another lesson of these past 25 years, and Elton John and every person in this room, that no matter how impossible the situation appears, no matter how fierce the opposition, there is nothing that we cannot achieve when we bring good people together. David talked about bringing people around the kitchen table in Atlanta. That's where it all started. That's what tonight is. It's bringing people with good intent around a table to organize and coordinate to make this place a better place, to right a wrong. And we can do these things. 25 years is a blink of an eye when you think about it. And New York State went 180 degrees in 25 years. 25 years ago, discrimination against gays was significant and ugly and hostile. 25 years later, this state led the way to legalizing marriage for gay couples when it was the first big state to sign it into law. We can change people's unfounded fears. We can bring people together, and we can solve problems that we see now all around us. We are enmeshed in a world of seemingly insurmountable problems. Most of them wouldn't have been imagined just a few years ago. This past Sunday, 27 more deaths to senseless gun violence in this country. Last week, the ignorance, the fear of a terrorist who mowed down 8 people on the west side of Manhattan. Climate change happening at a rate and a proportion that suggests biblical consequence. But we know, as difficult as these problems are, we can defeat them and we can meet the challenge the way we did with AIDS. We have to learn from what we did here. We have to learn from Ryan White and David Furnish and Sir Elton John. Honesty, leadership, compassion, and action succeed. No challenge is too great, because at the end of the day, good conquers evil. Truth defeats fear, compassion heals all, and love ultimately wins. And it did tonight. Thank you, and God bless you.